Did you know that you can put your database inside of a browser? As well, there are some cases where it actually makes sense. And of course, we can do the same. I actually created a repository that you can just git clone and you can try that. It's a vanilla version of it, so you can run it on your own computer. Let's do it together. So nothing fancy. You can see the repository here. It's something that I spinned up with Vite, with the vanilla version, the TypeScript vanilla version. But maybe, probably, you would like to see that running first. Let's do it. You see, now when you spin it up, you're gonna see something like this, and you can actually type something and then press enter. It's there. I press Ctrl-R and it's still there. And I already hear you. Local storage, session storage. It's not that. It's actually a SQLite embedded inside of this tab. And beware that, of course, you have the full CRUD capabilities, you know, the create, read, update, and delete ones. Alright. Enough with me yapping. Let's look at the code. The secret to making this performant is, of course, to not bound this to the UI. This is why we are in worker. We run SQLite inside of a web worker. And no, we're not using IndexedDB because it's historically slow for complex queries. It's event-driven and asynchronous. With SQLite, it's different. Instead, we use the official build, the Wasm build for SQLite, this one here. You can find it on npm itself. You see, it's here. Yeah, you know, it has a decent amount of downloads. And I mean, if you don't trust installing stuff from npm, I get you. Me too. This one, I think it's safe. And tag along because in the next videos, we're gonna see also how to do it yourself, how to wrap with Wasm. Anyway, if we go a bit down here, you're gonna see that they tell you for this to work, you need to set the following headers on your server: cross-origin open policy, same origin, and cross-origin embedded policy, require core. We'll see why. They then proceed you with some snippets, but you care about this one in a worker with OPFS available. What is OPFS? Origin private file system. OPFS, of course, you need HTTPS and those two headers that we're gonna see later. But what is it? It offers low-level byte-to-byte file access, which is private to the origin and not visible to the user, which means that you're gonna be needing also a bridge, which is indeed the web worker in our case. That's it. Look at our SQLite 3 init module that the library offers to us. Now here you get this object, SQLite 3. You can use it immediately to check if OPFS is supported on that browser. And of course, if it doesn't, you probably don't want to throw an error that will result in a white page. You would like to handle that differently. But please check here how we're dealing with this one. But focus on how we are connecting to the database right here. OPFS gives us a sandbox. OPFS is giving here. OPFS it's giving to us here a sandbox hidden directory directly on the hard drive of the user. Then I mean, look how funny. I'm literally doing a create table if not exist, and this is. I mean, are we doing front end? What is this? Then of course you can do all the queries. I will not go into this detail. You can just look at the repo or the documentation. But the point is that now you know that you can do that. But here's the catch. There is a catch. Any operation here that you do with SQLite, it's synchronous by its nature, and it will result in the UI being freezed and completely blocked. That's why all this file is put inside of a worker. Like you can see it here, it's inside of the file called db, and you see it's a worker that calls that other file that was containing all the SQLite with OPFS stuff. But wait, before you even start getting into that madness that post message is to be able to communicate between you know, the tab and the worker, I'm using here Comlink. I really advise it to you because you see comlink.wrap and you just give it the worker that it's right here. This one here, Comlink, you see a good amount of downloads as well, and this is how it works. So you have your worker and you can wrap it, and now it can just call object inc. So how it's the worker made? They have a perfect simple example where you create a simple object. This is the inc method that is being called in the other context, but you have to tell that you just are exposing that object. It completely handles all the complexity, all the madness that is behind that. If you work it with workers, you know. And I mean, this is exactly what we do here. I have db, which is the comlink wrap of my worker, and db is just invoked in different places, like db.update task, db do this other stuff. Now, in order to really hit those some milliseconds query times, SQLite Wasm needs to rely on SharedArrayBuffer, which is literally like an array buffer, but in browser context. Madness. It needs it in order to manage memory between threads, but it also opens a flank to some kind of attacks. Maybe you heard about it. It's called Spectre. And stay tuned and hit follow because in the next videos we're gonna be also doing a deep dive about Spectre and how did it work. Modern browsers will actually shut down your SharedArrayBuffer legitimately to avoid something like Spectre to happen, but you can still use SharedArrayBuffer. Your site has to prove that it's cross-origin attacks free. And indeed, if you look into vite.config.ts in the repo that I told you before, you're gonna see that I'm hard-coding these two headers: cross-origin open policy, same origin, and cross-origin embedded policy, required core. If at some point you're using this stuff on a CDN, please ensure that they are actually being attached to the response. Now, if you check my repo, actually, you're gonna see here that there is a link, which is the exact same repo hosted on GitHub Pages, which doesn't allow you to set these HTTP headers. So how does this work? How it's possible that it's still working? You see, I can refresh, it's still there, so it's working. Why? Well, we need to intercept some way on the client the request and attach those headers. And easy to do, you see, it's here in the HTML. The first script actually that gets it, it's this COEP service worker.js. So what is this? I didn't come up with it, I found it online and just added it in my public folder so that it's accessible from the ad fetching. And it's literally that, a service worker that is going to be running and intercept all the responses, allowing you to change the headers. You can see that it's doing it right here. You see on the error response, it's setting both the headers that we actually need. It also forces a micro reload, which the user does not perceive, but is needed. And at this point, you get that GitHub Pages. It's actually allowing you to use SharedArrayBuffer, which normally would not. I really suggest that you take a look at the repo. I mean, you can just, maybe you can get something out of it for your own projects. How does Notion use it? Let's see if this gives us an idea. They use the SQLite as a single point of truth so that you can have different tabs. And you notice that in Notion, there is also the concept of databases, you know, it's actually that. And of course, at some point, they have some heuristic that decide when it's time to sync that data from local to the actual cloud database that they have, so that you can access it from the phone or, you know, but yeah, so yeah, they have so they have the SQLite database that acts as a single point of truth and then different workers, one for each tab. This way you can edit something on the instance of the page A and it's mirrored on the instance B of the page, which I think it's quite cool. You can limit a lot the amount of requests you can limit a lot the amount of requests that hit your database. Like think if you're doing a kind of editor where you have to store every delta, the user had this letter, the user removed that letter, move the stuff up, move the stuff down. You don't need to send all of that to your database and kill your your bandwidth. You can just do it. You can just save everything on this actual database. It's a SQLite database, and then when the user is not doing anything anymore for the next 300 milliseconds, maybe compact a bit that delta and send it to your database. It's only one request and you're spending a lot of money. Enjoy.